It is that time of year. The weather's getting warmer, you forgot to file your taxes, and Warhammer prices are going up yet again. Come June 10th, you can expect a price increase by a couple of bucks, or by a little more if you live in Sweden for some reason. Warhammer is for everyone, unless you're poor. But is that really the case? Exactly how bad are these price hikes, and what does it mean for the hobby? Will it really raise the financial barrier to entry? Let's push through the clickbait and get to the bottom of it. Welcome back to Starhammer. Warhammer prices going up are practically an annual tradition at this point. This is the third year in a row that our overlords at GW have decided that they don't take enough from our wallets as it is. This is also another year in a row of absolute meltdowns from 40k YouTubers. I'm going to be as honest as I can here and not fearmonger you guys about this stuff. Let's get this little tidbit of good news out of the way first. Not all prices are going to go up. Paints, supplies, Black Library books, and White Dwarf magazines are all staying safe. But now let's get into the bad news. What is causing GW to raise these prices? It's no secret that inflation is literally fucking everyone right now. Warhammer prices go up, my salary doesn't. And according to GW, they aren't immune from this either. Compound that with the turmoil of being an English company during and after Brexit, and I imagine things might be a little weird for GW right now. But these price raises are actually kind of small, an average of 3% in most cases. Unless you're in Sweden or Switzerland, you'll be paying 8 to 14%. Why? Because fuck you, that's why, according to GW. When we look at last year's price hike, it was way more egregious at 5% universally on regular models, books and resin models at 10% increased, and metal models at a disgusting 20%. All things considered, I think we got off pretty well this time around. However, GW is a publicly traded company, so we can look at their reports and sort of get a glimpse behind the curtain. Generally speaking, GW is doing extremely well, with revenue rising by 11% across the board and their gross margins rising from 64.2% to 69.4%, due to the reduction in delivery costs and inventory provisions, which is an allowance set aside in anticipation for inventory loss. You can see a brief breakdown of the revenue increases from the various online, in-store, and trade sectors, and it's showing green across the board. So if they're doing so well, why are they raising prices? Well, for starters, they gotta pay their people. GW states here that their manufacturing has taken up about 2.5% of their revenue due to having to hire more temp staff and give their annual raise to their permanents. It would also seem they're planning a fourth factory to help supply meet demand. GW is also working on building an entirely new warehouse management system, particularly in Europe. They've stated there's a lot of work to be done here as these systems are over 2 decades old at this point and they're simply not getting the job done. As we all know, GW is a dice roll of whether you'll actually receive what you order in a timely manner, and it looks like they're trying to improve themselves on that front. In the States, they've invested more into robotics to make picking and packing more efficient as well. We can also see a rise in material costs at what I think is 0.5%, so I guess they've also got that to worry about. What I find extremely interesting, however, is right here under their investor goals, one of them says they're customer focused. And quite honestly, I find that contradictory. Don't get me wrong, I've never had a bad experience at my local Warhammer store, but I'm going to tell you right now that when you jack prices up like this, even just a little bit, that is not the way to recruit new customers into the hobby. It took me until I was 25 to get into Warhammer because I didn't have the funds to burn to even get a small army going. Even if most kits are only going up like $3 to $5, that's still a meaningful difference. Mom and dad aren't gonna buy little Timmy a kit that costs $70 for 4 tiny models. Shit like this is why people are going to cheaper games. GW might have some of the best, if not the best, minis on the market, but they certainly aren't the only ones. Star Wars Legions is a war game that sells a complete 2-player box set for about $95 on Amazon. It has 2 whole-ass armies in it, plus all the supplemental material you need to play. On top of that, their base unit kit costs are about $20 a pop. Now they aren't as detailed as GW, I know this for a fact because I have some, and that's not including paint and shit, but you're picking up what I'm putting down, right? You cannot say you are customer focused and then actively start pricing people out of the hobby. Now, for some folks, they won't care. This will barely be a blip on their radar, and that's fine. For others, this is pretty substantial. I'm not going to go as far as say it's an insult to the hobby or anything like that, but it's just sad. I love seeing new people get into this hobby, and that's a big part of why I started this channel in the first place. But at this rate, I'm wondering how myself or anyone else can in good conscience try and convince people to take the jump. Warhammer has and probably always will be a hobby for people with some disposable income, sure. I think that is a fine assessment, at least for the recent past. However, raising the barrier of entry even more is not how you're going to get people in. With that said, what can we do about it? Well, frankly, jack shit. GW is a business, and business going to do what business going to do. I can see a couple reasons for a small increase, but at the same time, I don't think they would be in dire straits if they didn't change anything at all. But, how then can you continue in the hobby or get into it if you're going to end up paying 40k to get just a 1,000 point army? Well, one way you can go about doing it is looking for second-hand armies. I got my start on my Necrons with a rescue army I picked up on consignment at my local game shop. I still got to repaint them, but I did some repairs, and for 200 bucks, I got about 1,200 points of Necrons. This way, you're still able to get the unit or the army that you're after and support a local business or your neighbors. You might have to put a little love into them, like here's a Necron model I repainted compared to their original scheme from that rescue box. Another option would be to pick up a 3D printer or hit up your homie that has one. You can find a lot of great and creative proxies and models that you can use at pretty much any casual table. I don't have a ton of printed ones because my printer's busted right now. I did this little Vindicator on my old printer, and I use this thing every time I play Thousand Sons. Just keep in mind you won't be able to use printed models at official Warhammer tournament events. I shouldn't have to explain why. I'll drop some links in the description on where you can find files for models. Most of the time you can get them for free, but if you do gotta pay, they're usually super cheap. Just like buying secondhand, you'll be supporting a fellow human being, in this case an artist who is putting their own creative spin on some of your favorite units. At the end of the day, I don't believe this will have any huge effect on the hobby as a whole. I don't think people who are already balls deep in Warhammer are gonna shirk away from paying a few extra bucks. And GW knows this, and this is why they keep raising the prices, because people will pay it. But I do think that raising the already obnoxious cost of entry is gonna make a lot of noobs think twice. So, how do we get more people into this hobby? By extending a helping hand. If you got an extra army, let your friend use them and try them out, see how they like it. Point them in cost-effective directions like secondhand or printed stuff if they can't afford the real shit. While GW isn't gonna go broke anytime soon, that doesn't mean you have to. And that's all I've got for this one, y'all. Let me know what you think about these price hikes down in the comments below. Don't forget to like it if you like it, subscribe if you really liked it, and don't forget to follow me on shit, and check my community tab to hear silly stuff from me and keep up with the latest videos. I'll see you all in the next one. Toodles.